Okay, so we're going to start today with the My Identification Records, or My IDs, for this Getting Your Ducks in a Row system. So first of all, I wanted to show you one of the binders, because last time we talked about how to get things set up. So this binder is one very large binder, which you can certainly start with. But if you're older and have had homes and all sorts of different situations in life, you may end up needing more. So what my husband and I have done is we have these narrow binders, and this particular one is my identification record binder. He has his own. The other things that we'll go through over the next few weeks will be they'd be in their own binders if it's a shared situation, if it's joint. So when we started last time, and I talked to you about a roadmap document, and I gave you that document. So this was where you fill out all of your trusted representatives, and that goes on the front page of your binder. So we want to now talk about what's inside the identification record binder. So I'm going to share the screen and pull up those forms that we're going to talk about and the documents that you need in here. Whoops, excuse me. So the first thing I'll do is share the screen. Okay. And you're going to see here that there's this, so this is the top page. So first you've got that roadmap document, and now you've got this DocuFind, and this will be, there will be a page like this that will start each of the sections that we do each week. So now we're just going to talk about my identification records. So here on this DocuFind, you've got different categories. So NA is not applicable, P is pending, and C is complete. And here's a section for notes. And this is a fillable form, and I've sent you all of these forms. So we're going to kind of skip here. This is the DocuFind. There is a form for special instructions. If as you're doing this, you want any particular notes in there, you can include that. But now we're going to go through and we're going to look to see, oh, let's see here. Oh, I'm not adopted. So that does not, it doesn't matter. So I want my trusted representatives to know, because remember, we're using this as not only a place of storing records and keeping track of the things for you, but if you become incapacitated or you pass away, this is a way for your trusted representatives to have the perfect communication device. So they know, I do not need to look for adoption records, or let's say I don't need to look for annulment papers. Why isn't this clicking there? But I do need to know where their birth certificate is. And so let's just say it's in a box, under the bed, like wherever you're keeping your things, that's where you would put notes in here so that that person knows. Now, hopefully this isn't going to be the case going forward, that birth certificate is going to go into the binder, and the binder is going to go into a secure and protected location that trusted representative has access to. So we look down further. If you have citizenship or naturalization records, you would put that in. Now, when I'm saying put it in the binder, what I'm talking about is that each document, and I'm going to stop the share for a second, each document goes into a sheet protector. And that sheet protector, it has the 3 holes, and it goes into the binder in sheet protectors. So you're not punching holes in your records. They're in those sheet protectors, and in most cases, if you need to make a copy, you don't even need to take it out of the sheet protector. It's right there. And what you do is, and I'm going to share again, you're going to put the documents in the binder in the order in which they're listed here. So you see they become alphabetical. So what happens is it becomes very easy then for them to find. So think of this as a table of contents. This is the contents of what is in that section of your binder. So go through here, the death certificates. This is either your own, if it's been the end of your life. Oh my goodness. Or it's that of someone you're taking care of their estate or have something to do with their estate, and you just want to keep that record handy. Divorce decrees, domestic partnerships and civil unions, driver's license. So most of us have a driver's license, but is that driver's license in your wallet? And do you need to have a copy in this binder? So things that you're carrying with you, you just don't want one of those. So that, therefore, you want to make sure you've got a good copy front and back of those things that are really pertinent, and someone who's accessing your information would want to have, maybe your wallet isn't available to them. Here we're into education certificates and diplomas, employment records and contracts, family social security numbers. So I'll show you. So let's just say you have grandchildren too, and you want to set up an account for them and deposit money regularly into the account, what have you, buying stock for them or whatever, something you would do. There's reasons to do this and reasons not to do this. So you have to decide, do you want to list your family with their social security number, date of birth, and city of birth? So after so in this case, we're going to say, oh, it's pending. It's something I'm going to ask my family about and work on. So it's a task to get the information about their social security numbers. So then there's some jobs require fingerprints. Some people like to track their DNA. Others have their children fingerprinted. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons for that. Government or military ID. Again, if you're carrying it, just like a license, you would make a copy. Guardianship or conservatorship, marriage license, Medicaid or Medicare card. So then there's also one here called memberships, clubs, and organizations. So this is where you would list your various memberships, possibly the dates you've been a member and position held or year. So there's all sorts of types of memberships. So you can have a membership in a club, a social type of membership. You can have a membership in with an airline in frequent flyer miles. You can belong to various organizations. So this is really an interesting thing to think about and to list, where it's not so much about the hardcore records and documents as it is the interest in who you are as a person. And some people like to write their memoirs and reflect back on this. So it's interesting to keep track of these types of things for certain people. None of this is prescriptive. You don't have to do any of this. The next one is military service records, name change, if anyone's changing their name or a woman's getting married. There's actually a whole packet there that's available to do that. A copy of a passport is important, as well as I keep my copy and my passport together. And then when I use my passport, I know the copy is with my records. The biggie is passwords. We need to keep track of all of our passwords. And this is something today that's become really cumbersome. I actually don't even use this form. I use an Excel spreadsheet because my husband and I have so many passwords and organizations that we get into electronically. So you can use this form or just open up an Excel spreadsheet with the headings and make sure that it's the company, like let's just say it's your medical insurance company, and what your username and password is, if there's any sort of account number or PIN number, what is the address, the electronic address of that, company, so that you put in your username. So the login information basically is what goes here. Also on the Excel spreadsheet I've added other information, like sometimes they ask you, oh, what's your mother's maiden name, or, like security questions. And so I'll put that there. It's then, though, it's stored. We store ours electronically and it's encrypted. So it isn't something that somebody just gets, can hack into. So this is much more protected than other things we have. So we got to the passwords, and then things like green cards and pre and post NUPs. Recent photo, many times people are not, they want to be in control of their obituary photo. And I've heard a lot of funny stories about photos that got out that the assumption is the person would have been very upset. So it's kind of nice to have a recent photo. Also for security reasons, if anything should happen to you, it's good to have a recent photo. Any religious records, your resume, any separation agreements, social security card. So this is a copy. You should never carry your social security card. This is a copy and the original in the, protected here. You don't ever want anybody easily getting a hold of your social security card. State ID card, support order, and then talents and hobbies is very similar to the membership thing. People don't really think about, going back in their life and, what were they, what did they do, what were the things that really were a part of who they are. And this is great for, all sorts of things in terms of memoir. And I also know one person who the grandchildren got into this and did a beautiful birthday party and a tribute to their grandmother, knowing some of the past information that they had listed here. So then, of course, the U.S. passport card for those who don't have a passport, that gets you into Canada and Mexico. Any visas, your voter registration information, and then the wallet contents. So when we talked last time, I mentioned how important this was to copy the contents of your wallet. And here are the instructions, and I think I sent them to you. If not, I will make sure that I do. So you want to copy it front and back. And in the event that your wallet or purse is stolen or lost, you have an easy way of remembering what was in there and retrieving or, stopping use of cards and all of that until credit cards and things like that can be reissued to you. So this part concludes the identification record piece of it. So it's pretty straightforward. But what I want to tell you is that as you go through, so if you take the DocuFine list and you go through one by one and you check off, is this applicable to me? If it isn't, just put NA, check that box. If you can't find it within 5 minutes, click pending and you'll come back to it. The likelihood of you finding these documents as you go through this whole process with me is very high. And so if something's misfiled or whatever, you're probably going to come across it. But if you have it and you put it in the sheet protector and the sheet protector into the binder, make sure that I make a copy and then I put that original and the copy in there. But what I do, this is an approach that you have to decide what you want to do. Do you want to wait and accumulate everything and have your binder all together and then decide, are you going to electronically store it as well? If you know you're going to electronically store it and you want to do that right off the bat, you can. You just simply, as you're doing that, say I've got my birth certificate, I made a copy, put it in the sheet protector, and then I scanned that birth certificate and I uploaded it into a folder that I'm going to protect, right? So there's going to be a security piece of that where I have to get it password protected. So these are things that you can or cannot do. There are also all sorts of software available that have the ability, you know, cloud storage and things like that, that are already secure and encrypted. I don't want to get into that because there's so many commercial options, and I'm not recommending any one over another. And I'm not even saying that you have to do that. You don't have to store it in a protected manner. Most people have this stuff in folders that anybody could take a box, pull all the folders, throw them in a box and steal them. You know, it would take them a while to get through and find stuff, but most people do not have these things secured. So it's up to you to decide what your comfort level is and what you want to do. Do you want to keep these in a safe? Do you want to keep them in some sort of fireproof box? You know, whatever. So you're looking at issues of not only identity theft, but fire, flood, you know, any kind of issue that could cause you to lose these valuable records, which makes it very difficult to recover. You know, the last thing anybody would need is to have to go through all of this, you know, in some sort of disaster. So the idea is to get it all done, and hopefully a disaster never happens, but you're ready in case it does. So far, does anybody have any questions or comments?
Judy, this is Leslie. We kind of are losing you. It's going in and out, the internet connection. So just, do you guys have any questions about what she missed?
Yeah, I can repeat.
I think we're good. I was just wanting to make sure that they understood what you were saying, because you kind of went out as you were talking about, you know, the electronic part of it.
Oh, yeah. And I'll just recap really quickly. Storing things electronically, it's up to you. It does not have to be. So if you choose to do that, you can do it as you do each document and just scan it in, or you can wait till you've done the whole process and do just a scanning job. But how you protect all of these things is completely up to you. I don't want to, you know, tell anybody that this is the only way to do it. It certainly isn't. But I just want you to be aware that, you know, this is something that you do for yourself first, learn how to do it, and then it's so lovely to be able to do it, you know, help maybe your children or an older parent or whatever. So it's a nice thing to give as a gift, so to speak. So I did that when I did it for my kids. I think I explained last time that when I had my children were young, I set up this system, and they were, you know, growing up, going to college, they got their jobs. And when they left to get their apartment and all, I simply handed them their binder and said, you're in charge of your life. And I didn't keep a copy, nothing. And they've done really well. And so then when my daughter had children, my grandchildren, I made a binder for them. And so it's really easy for a baby, right? You've got two beginning documents, the birth certificate and then the social security card. And, you know, so then you're off and running. It's harder for us going backwards and recapping everything. It takes a little more effort. So, well, it takes a lot more effort, I'll be honest. So that's really the identification record part of it. So I know we have these slotted for a large period of time, but there will be certain ones that will go long and certain ones that will be shorter. So this is one of the easier ones to do. So again, what I suggest is for your homework this week that you go one by one on the list, and you'll notice, I'll share the screen again, if you have documents or records that are not included in this list, you can add anything you want here. So therefore you can put things in, and also remember though that the location notes are critical. It doesn't do anybody any good if you do all of this, number one, and you don't tell anybody. You're just organized for yourself. You're not organized for anybody to help you. But if they're going to help you, they need to know where things are. hopefully after this process is done, these notes change in such a way that it's comprehensive, they're all in a good, secure location, together in a very organized, orderly manner. So that's a really important component, is that you have to always think of this as not just a way to have your things in order, but it's also a communication device. So with that, I'll just ask if anybody has a comment or a question or a story they want to talk about based on identification records.
I just wanted to say thank you. This recap was awesome. I missed printing a couple of pages. I'm able to make that list, so I can go back and do that. I have my notebook compiled and in my sheets, and I'm already gathering records. This is just, it's awesome.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. That's marvelous.
It's so brainless and simple. It's just like, and like you said, don't stress. Put what you find in there. You're going to find things as you go. I'm finding that to be very true.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that people get wrapped up in is, well, it's really two things. The first is they can't find it, and then they start going through everything, and it becomes this overwhelming project that they decide they don't want to do, and they abandon it. So that's why I say that, so you don't abandon, and you'll find so many things. The other thing is, some people get really enthusiastic, and they're like, oh, here's my insurance for this, and here's my will, and here's this and that, and they start jumping ahead, and that also will burn people out. So there's a reason for this rhythm, and they doing the homework and finding things in a way that is not making us feel like, oh, this is a job I absolutely do not want to do. And so that's the thing. You know, my husband always says that, Judy, you've figured out something that everybody needs and nobody wants to do. So I recognize that, and I wanted to stress how important it is to pace yourself. That's all.
Okay, and I have one question. I found I had boxes and boxes of insurance records or medical, like past medical stuff. What of that do I need to keep? I was just putting the current and thinking, really, does the past matter?
Yeah, so we'll get to what to keep and what to get rid of when we get into each section. And it's going to depend. So I'll just address that a little bit. With your medical history, we're going to have a medical history form where you're just going to briefly highlight your medical history, but enough so that it's relevant to be shared with other family members, as well as, if you choose, as well as with your providers, so that they have that information, and you as well. Keeping all the old medical records is not really necessary unless you're still in the midst of so let's just say, I don't know, you broke your leg, right? And that was 10 years ago, and it was repaired and all of that. There's no issue. There's no malpractice lawsuit. There's no nothing, right? It's all done. Now, could something come up in 2 years related to that leg? Sure. So what you have to choose, right? How much stuff are you going to keep for the what ifs? And I think that's, with the IRS, they give very clear directions about what we keep and how long we keep it. With medical records, you've got to realize too that the medical establishments also have those records. Now, many of them are archived after, I think, 7 years. So, or maybe it depends on the medical institution. So you really have to decide. But in general, once you get that history recorded, so basically that in such and such a year, I had such and such a surgery, blah, 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 whatever. And that way it's recorded. It's evident that was part of your medical history, but you don't need every piece of paper that backs that up.
Right. Okay. Well, the other thing I was asking is the insurance companies that you had, it's only necessary to keep the current, correct?
Like the paperwork or the booklets or? card?
Yeah, so if you've had past, are you talking about past insurance that you no longer have the policy?
Yes.
Yeah, pitch it. You do not need that. If you have claims, though, that's different. If you have claims that are unresolved or anything like that, but if you just have an old policy where you had nothing, you know, there's no issue, there was nothing, you just have a new insurance company now, there's no reason to keep any of that. And again, when we get to the insurance section, we'll be doing an insurance summary form on the active policies that you have only. So for instance, like one of the examples I always give about the reason I don't like file folders and I like the binder system so much better is, like, think about that auto declaration page you get every year for your car. Like, how many people have those for cars they don't even own anymore? Like, when you have it in the sheet protector, it's like, oh, there's last year's, no good anymore, pitch it, put in the new one. And that's the solution, to, as opposed to keep deposit into file folders. And then you get to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, I have so many pieces of paper and I don't know where to begin. So that's what we're trying to prevent and make it really crystal clear what is live, what's active, what's really a part of you and your life, and that is in an orderly fashion in a way that's clearly it has the ability to be communicated to your trusted representatives.
Okay.
Any other questions?
What are we going over next on the insurance? You said the insurance.
So the next thing we'll be doing is your contacts. So this is your address book, all of the connections and contacts that you have. Believe it or not, you'll see there's more to that than meets the eye. So we'll be doing that next time. And following that, we'll get into all the health stuff. So if there are no other questions, we're finished for today.
So, Judy, can you send me what I missed last time?
Yes. Yeah. And just to let you know that the beginning, they watched a video that I had done. So I'll send you the video, and then I'll send you the roadmap document too, so you can establish. And one of the things I want to say to everybody is, you don't necessarily know right off the bat who you want to appoint as trusted representatives. As you go through this process, you're going to get a little better handle on that. So don't feel like, oh, I just don't have the answers to these, I don't know who I want. Just give it a little time, give it a few weeks to, let's get this pulled together, and then we can even discuss that further at the end. And see how you feel and how you want to manage that with people. For instance, you do not have to give a trusted representative 100% access to everything. And we'll talk about that. And as a matter of fact, when we do the contacts, we'll be talking about not just the contacts, but we'll be talking about all your in case of emergency contacts and your trusted representatives in terms of how they are contacted, in what order. So we'll get in depth into that a bit more. But yes, Leslie, I'll catch you up on, you'll be able to watch the other video, and I'll get you the forms and you'll be ready to go.
Okay. I may not be able to participate in all of them, so,
Well, what I'm going to do though, Leslie, is I'm going to record every one of them.
Okay.
So we'll have the recorded series, and then you'll be able to go ahead and, at your leisure, fill in the blanks.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, thank you. I did like your idea to maybe have more than one trusted person. You never know.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about that last time, that trusted representative is not necessarily one individual. If that person for some reason isn't available or capable at the time in their life, who knows what can happen. It's good to have backup. Yeah, that was a good point.
Have have somebody besides that one person. We have with somebody now, and then you need somebody else in case they have to stay in.
Because you never know.
Yeah, well, that's probably the thing that I've been right now. I have somebody now. I'm trying to. Having a hard time because my sons want to be the conservator, and I said, well, that's not going to work quite well. So I have my nephew that I can trust him very well, and I just got to get somebody else. It's like she said, it's hard trying to find the person you can trust, and you never know what could happen in the future.
Yeah, and sometimes there is no one, right? And so there is the ability also to hire a professional to engage at that point in time. So in my case, I have a person who is a social worker. So so my trusted representative is obviously my husband and then my children, but she's my navigator, because if in the event that anything happens to me, so let's say I pass away and my husband and children are very upset, and they don't have the knowledge base to even know what to do, right? So this person does. So I've hired her. By hiring me, I mean I'm not paying her anything until it would be necessary. So I've vetted her, I've appointed her on my roadmap document, that she's the one that will corral everybody and get everybody the information they need. The attorney, I'm just listing off what's on the document. So it's like an attorney, an accountant, if they have a spiritual advisor, or whatever, all the different people that have a necessary role in the event of incapacity or death of you as the individual, would be listed on that. And so I've appointed her as the one contact to sort of manage all of those people. Are they doing what they're supposed to do? Did they get the information that they needed? Without my family having to get into that stuff that they're not really interested in dealing with at a point in time when they potentially are grieving or upset. So think about that too, that you can connect with people that are the aging life care management specialists. They used to be called geriatric care managers, different social workers, people who really understand, and in particular in aging, they've got the information. They have a wealth of information. There are people with those same titles that don't have all of that information. So, it does take vetting, and I do have the information for you, which we'll talk about at the end, and I'll give you how to hire somebody like this, how to, what questions to ask, what credentials to look for. And again, costs nothing to have them listed, and they have to agree, right? You have to have an agreement between the two parties. So don't always feel it has to be a family member or a friend, because it's a big burden to put on one person. And the other piece of it is it also sometimes causes friction within family when one's been selected over another. So sort of gives you an out.
Would that conservator or
I'm sorry, could you speak up a little bit? I can't hear.
I said, could that conservator or your representative, would it be your power of attorney also?
No. I mean, you could work that out, but most professionals don't want to be anybody's power of attorney. So no, and conservator is not the term you want to be using. A conservator is a court appointed. That means you do not have capacity and someone is completely controlling your life. I think what you're thinking of is an executor. So an executor of your estate is very different, and that could be a lay person, or it can be an attorney, or anybody you want to appoint. But no, you do not want to get involved in a conservatorship or guardianship, because that means your life is in a shambles and the courts have taken you over. So let's hope nobody gets to that. But yeah, we'll get into all of this as we proceed. you'll see, we'll cover, that's what it is, getting your ducks in a row. We won't leave any duck out.
People that have, like my wife right now, she's going through dementia. My wife has dementia right now.
Oh, does she? I'm sorry.
And they tell me that I should get an alternate. I think an alternate.
A what?
I mean,
Alternate.
a guardianship. If something should happen to me.
Oh, if something should happen to you. Yes. Yeah, that's different. Yes. Yeah, yeah, if something happens to you, you have to have it set up as to, my sister has a disabled child. And so if my sister and her husband pass away, she has it all worked out as to how he's cared for. So actually, he doesn't have a guardian as such as, it's sort of like, well, I guess it is. It's not a court-appointed situation, but yes, it is a guardian. Actually, my daughter is his guardian, and so that's all been arranged legally if anything happens to my sister and her husband. But yeah, you have to cover that base with someone who doesn't have capacity themselves. But yeah, I'm glad you're thinking about that, because it's important, and it'll really give you peace of mind to know that that's taken care of. Anything else?
I'm wondering on property, should we have say like put a tenant even if they don't live there, like your children, so if something happens to you.
Can you repeat that? I'm turning my volume way up. Go ahead.
Properties, do you need a tenant on your property? Joint tenant, even if they do not live there, in case something should happen to you?
Yeah, let's not get into that now, because we're going too far ahead into the other areas. So let's deal with that. That really is not in my area of expertise, though. So I wouldn't want to make a statement about that. I think that's where you have to go and talk to an attorney. Yeah, I want you to know that I am not an attorney. I am not, I'm telling you about how to get things in order. I do know, I know a lot about these things based on my exposure and experience, but I'm not any one of these professionals. So my expertise is in aging overall, and this being a component part of that, as we've seen as people have aged and don't have any of this, and the horror of what happens within a family, within the medical system, by not being prepared. So that was the origin of wanting to make this available to the public, so that they don't get into situations and don't react in a crisis-driven mode. They've done some thinking and organizing of their desires, what it is that you want and how you want it. So we'll get in much more in depth into all that as we proceed each week.
How many types of powers of attorney are there? Like a physical, a medical, or a regular power of attorney? Is there any other power of attorneys?
No, there are two powers of attorney. So power of attorney for medical and power of attorney for your financial side of your life. Those are the two.
My son is asking me on the medical if something should happen to me, and I have a DNR, do not resuscitate or complete. Who has in charge of that?
You're in charge of that, in the sense that we'll get into that when we do those types of records. That's in the medical category. And then what will happen is, though, every single time someone is admitted to a hospital, there's a completely new DNR brought in. Also, if you go into skilled care, you need some sort of rehab. again, you'll always have the opportunity to readdress that. You can change your mind at any time. So yeah, but it's, you know, you're doing a DNR. You can have a DNR along with your powers of attorney and all of that. But yet, even if you have one and you're cognizant, you can change your mind at the last second.
I just wondered how many different power of attorneys are there?
No, just the two. And one of the things that happens is the minute you die, powers of attorney have no use whatsoever. And that's a misconception people have. They think that a power of attorney after a person has died gives them the ability to just manage the estate. And that isn't the case. They have no more power at all. Powers of attorney are only for while you're alive, and you do not, well, there's two types. So we're getting too deep into this later thing that I'll get into, but I'll just tell you right now, there's two types that they're standing and springing powers of attorney. So the type that of power of attorney where the minute you sign it, that individual can do anything they want with you and your property. Then there's the type where if you're incapacitated, or if you say, I need you to now, I want this to spring into effect, then that's when that type. So, but the minute a power of attorney is signed, that's not a springing, you have just handed over every control of everything you have to that individual. So you have to be careful there. And that's where a lawyer and spending a couple $100 on a lawyer for advice on a power of attorney and getting the power of attorneys drawn up correctly is worth every penny. Because you can do anything online today, but you're not, without the knowledge, you can be harming yourself far more than helping yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, don't let anybody take over your life unless you need the help, you know. Anything else? All right, well, I think we can conclude for today, and I will, and Leslie, I'll make this available to you and Kathy, this recording, as well as the original recording that we did for the first session.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.